As the war continued for humanity's survival, the Chimeran threat finally left Europe. Deciding to finally attack my neck of the woods, they made their way across the oceans towards the United States. The absolute decimation of Europe was seemingly done by more or less your standard forms of Chimeran hybrids, angels, and titans. But upon making it across the planet, newer forms began to pop up, wreaking even more havoc upon the bipedal Homo sapiens. One in particular is awfully similar to another type of alien humans have tangled with in another fictional universe. This predator stalks the woods and ships completely camouflaged, waiting for any would-be troops or civilians to happen upon it before it completely tears them in half. So let's jump into the lore and morphology behind the chameleon from Resistance 2 and discuss what makes this creature so dangerous. Also, just as a side note, trying out a different format, quick video covering lore of a creature as well as biology. Let me know what you think down in the comments. The chameleon, first and foremost, is one adapted to guerrilla tactics during the war. They would run up on an unsuspecting human and completely tear them to shreds. Employing these tactics led to the decimation of highly trained soldiers and was a serious blow to Earth's fighting forces. The main issue is the chameleon, while you could hear it coming, you barely had any chance to see this creature. The next thing you would see are just a bunch of large razor-sharp claws tearing into your meat suit. An example of their lethality in combat was observed when you were in the Redwood Forests of California. Nathan Hale's group is considered to be highly trained and lethal in their own right. However, as they made their way through, many of the Black Ops soldiers were torn apart simply by not being able to counter what these things were and where they were coming from. Even you, as the standalone half-human, half-hybrid, can be annihilated by these creatures if you do not pay close enough attention. But what would befall you should a chameleon get close enough? Nothing too pretty. When you enter an area, the first thing you might hear is a soft cooing in the distance. Thinking it's probably just a pigeon, you continue on pushing forward. Then the next thing you hear is a bipedal elephant stomping towards you. All you can see is maybe a shimmer of light before everything goes black. So what are you dealing with? The chameleon is an extremely powerful organism, but it's almost like a glass cannon scenario. They typically can one-hit game-end humans quite easily and tear them in half, but lack very little armor themselves. This lack of armor makes them extremely susceptible to a shotgun blast at point-blank range, which is pretty apropos considering they only reveal themselves at point-blank range. They appear to have a camouflage system grafted into their actual bodies, much like the cooling system is. This allows the light around them to be deflected in a way that almost completely hides their bodies from view. Your peripheral sight wouldn't even notice their movement, though with a direct line of sight, an outline can be seen. Morphologically speaking, they are a beast. They seem to resemble reptiles more than anything, but are still from a single human being. In this case, the skeletal structure of the person would be so altered that if you were to happen upon the remains of one of these things in the woods, you might think that was actually evolved from a dinosaur that we never knew about. The feet of the chameleon are massive, and I mean, just listening to it stomping, you can get the idea. Let's just say, ironically, he probably wouldn't be doing any sneaking anytime soon, which is why they actually need the camouflage. On these feet sit 4 massive razor-sharp claws. These claws, should they get a hold of anyone, I imagine could legitimately just tear your entire body down in 4 slices. The foot is also quite sizable and provides a stable walking surface. The tarsal bones have been elongated to almost triple their normal size, allowing for the overall structure that we see. Moving up the leg, we see that it is in a digitigrade structure. This is odd considering how loud the creature is. Usually this form of leg makes them more quiet, but the chameleon apparently does not even bother being stealthy, instead relying heavily on its camo for the cover and its advancement. The knee of this creature almost sits directly above the toes, creating a 90-degree bend. Moving up the quadriceps, we begin to get an idea of how this creature could be so loud. The thighs are massive, quite literally thick with 12 C's. This guy is actually swole. This much muscle on the legs would have a purpose. The creature, in theory, could be able to leap great distances and run quicker than you or I. Perfect for ambushes. The upper body is interesting on this specific organism for a few reasons. They almost appear to be like a walking frogs. While the legs are large, the torso and abdomen are much larger, almost disproportionately so. The abs appear to have thick skin coating, though it also appears to be easily pierced by gunfire, meaning that this is probably just a leathery material. The chest and back also have a great quantity of muscle, with the latissimus dorsi muscle aiding the most in its slashing abilities. Moving down the arms, we see everything, just like with the rest of its body, has been increased in size. But getting to the hands, we start to see where the traits of the foot are stemming from. The hands are large, but the claws are the main point of focus. These claws are roughly about 2 feet in length or 0.6 meters. Seeing as they can one-hit kill, it can be assumed that they are able to bypass most armors humans are wearing due to how sharp they are, but also coupled with the strength of this chameleon. Each finger is tipped with a claw, and this is speculative, but there is an unsheathing sound can be heard when the creatures sometimes attack. This says that the claws are actually retractable to some degree and can only come out when needed. Due to their size, they would need to retract back up into the forearms, and in theory could also provide some protection to the arms should hand-to-hand combat become an issue. Moving up to the face, we see a face really only a Chimera mother could love. Looking absolutely hideous and devoid of any human features, this face has become much more alien, which is quite fitting. The head sits in a forward posture, meaning that the spine now has to hold up the head. This would seemingly affect the intellect of the creature, as the brain could not be as large. A light armor covering is attached over the neck area to provide protection, and more than likely acts as the unit providing the camo. The eyes sit on top of the head and are yellow just like the rest of the Chimera, so nothing too special there. Pretty much that's just the staple at this point. Then we get a good look at those pearly whites. The skin doesn't even appear to completely cover these teeth, showing even more of them. With a standard human jaw and teeth, usually you have different varying teeth that provide different roles, such as grinding or biting or tearing. That's why we're omnivores. But with the chameleon, these teeth are almost indiscernible from one another, but they are razor sharp. Let's just say that if the claws don't get to you, this thing could bite your head off almost too easily. The canines are several inches in length, but again, every other tooth is about the same as a canine. This suggests that the creature is completely carnivorous and would be assumed to enjoy snacking on humans. So let's move on to a new segment. How do you win? Well, you don't. With all these natural traits and maybe unnatural traits, how do you fight it as a lowly human? Well, my friend, you're basically screwed. If it came down to it, you might be able to take out maybe 1 or 2 of these, but the issue lies with their speed and ability to cloak. The fact is, your nervous system without training is pretty quick, but just barely quick enough, operating in the milliseconds reacting to threats. But when these creatures are cloaked, the issue would be that it is actually very similar to your minimum time needed to react. Upon seeing this, your brain would interpret the information and send the impulse to your finger to pull the trigger, though the issue is that doesn't mean you've actually aimed your weapon. This being the case, it's almost based on luck. Which way were you facing? Was the weapon raised? Was it pointed in the right direction? All these variables would need to line up correctly for you to survive more than a few feet into this forest. Even highly alert soldiers were torn apart by these things. Your best bet is the shotgun though. Its spray does enough damage to a chameleon with the meager amount of armor it has, but again, this is a very tough fight and you don't have much time. Should it capture you, it's game over. Judging by those teeth, and again this thing is carnivorous, I doubt it would turn down an easy meal. Not to mention, much like the rest of the Chimera, they seem to have an innate hate for humanity. Tearing apart people as if they were nothing, the same fate would probably befall you as well. To quote, it'll bite your fragging head off. So what did you think about these shorter videos? Still trying to hone in some stuff? In fact, I'm also making this outro super short. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed my dudes. I'll drop my links in the description, and of course, I'd like to thank my patron. We've got Joseph Givens at the astronaut tier. Thanks, Mad Lad. Next up, our scientists are Arlam Lupe, then we got Artyom Shortage, and next up, it's Not a Spoon. Our resident is A. Laurentis. Our geneticists are Andrew Lawson, Divine Whisper, and Laffy No Skill. Holding down their masters in biology, we have Adam Hartswick, Cameron Smith, Cough Syrup, Edge McGee, Mr. Poyfish, Stutz, The Ren of Lie, and The Otterman. Our bachelors are Add to the List, Ahigao Comics, Anthony Wolf, Dustin Ellis, Eric Scott Gillies, Fruit Eater, Kyle McHenry, Molten Tarts, Professor Bennett's Riot, Russell McBride, The Original Fat Ass, Trixie Lulamoon, and Ulfhednar 845719. Thank you for the support. Expect the Starfish or the Blind Ones up next. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and I will see y'all in the next one.